Okay, welcome back everyone. Today is the second day of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan's Effects Analysis Review, third phase. And today's meeting agenda will mostly consist of just the panel's initial recommendations, their presentation to you, and then dialogue with the presenters from the previous day. So we will have a period for public comment at the end of the day. So if you would like to make public comment, please fill out a blue slip located on the back table and give it to me sometime during today's presentation. So I'm really going to hand this over to our chair, Dr. Alex Parker, to lead your presentation and the discussion.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me? Am I projecting? Terrific. So we spent this morning pulling together our initial thoughts about the reading that we had, Chapter 5 and associated appendices. And the format that we would like to use with you this afternoon, we'd really like to try what we did for Phase 2, which was more of a back-and-forth open dialogue rather than a laundry list of initial comments. I know that was our overall feeling was that was really helpful for us when we went into actually writing the report. The other piece is that because these are our initial comments and impressions, I think we're largely lacking in specific recommendations right now, but that will certainly be brought out more in the panel report. So we're going to give you sort of our initial impressions and comments with hopefully a great deal more in terms of recommendations for means for improving the document with the written report. So, what we've done is about halfway through our presentation. I just put in a blank slide so we can pause, and if there are any specific comments at that point, but please feel free to speak up if you would like to add clarity for us or ask for specific, and really you can address me, but I'm going to rely on my fellow panelists to fill in because this is certainly very collaborative this morning. So our first impressions, many positive things. In particular, a lot of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 comments and suggestions have been addressed, at least to some degree, and pleased to see additional analyses in some cases, and an improved literature review for the Bay Delta. So we're pleased with that overall. More broadly, nearly all of the actions or conservation measures have the potential to benefit species of concern, and we certainly recognize the monumental effort that's going into BDCP to meet these intended goals. Of course, the question is, will these species of concern benefit to the degree that is described in the effects analysis? And that's largely our job to help evaluate the effects. So what we're going to do is just first give you sort of a sense of more broad areas of concern and then actually go to the panel charge questions. And we tried to drop these into that framework. Overall, I think each of us felt that Chapter 5 is meant to be a summary document. It's very large, and we recognize that it's a really complex task you've been given. However, what we felt was throughout Chapter 5, ultimately, we always had to go to the associated appendix for any real detail and any real analysis, and often there wasn't a sufficient roadmap to get us there. In some cases, this meant additional chapters, such as Chapter 3, which really wasn't even under our purview. And so we'll give you some more specific comments about this, but that was a challenge for us. Again, overall, some of the organization is pretty repetitive, and to some extent that may be unavoidable, but it makes processing the document very challenging. Finally, with respect to sort of the overall picture of the construction of Chapter 5, we felt there were some places where it was very clear just the sheer number of multiple authors and a lack of consistency in streamlining the document. So inconsistencies in how the document was put together. And I think that could use some more attention. So much of the analysis is dependent on this understanding of uncertainty, and in some cases it makes real assessment of the effects virtually impossible for us at this time. We'll give you some specific cases where this is particularly problematic, but overall there was fairly inconsistent treatment of uncertainty throughout the effects analysis within appendices and in the net effects, we used to call the roll-up, such that, within Chapter 5, the uncertainty may have been stated but not really linked with the overall outcome, whereas within the various appendices, there was greater emphasis placed on the uncertainty, although inconsistently. The other piece we all recognize as the success of BDCP hinges on a commitment to effective adaptive management. This doesn't fall under our purview in this review, but again, adaptive management and really linking the effects analysis with the adaptive management was lacking. Virtually no mention of it within Chapter 5. The effects analysis for many of the biological objectives is incomplete right now, and something that crippled us in terms of the really understanding the effects or potential effects is lack of specificity with the location and configuration of the ROAs. And we'll try to bring that out in specific comments. So digging into this a little bit deeper, and so these are framed in terms of the specific charge questions. We were asked, how well does the effects analysis meet its expected goals? And this is where we have real trouble with accessibility to the information. There's this sense that much of the information is probably there, is almost certainly there, but even up until and through yesterday, we really needed the dialogue with you directly to find some of that information. And you all know it really well, but very difficult for us. So this is one of the few recommendations that we can tell you right now. We feel that Chapter 5, because it is a summary document and you wanted to leave the detail in the associated supporting appendices, we just need better linking throughout, better cross-referencing, better indexing throughout. Because without it, we're left with this sense of, sort of trust us, because without the level of detail, we're really hunting. How clearly are the methods described? Again, this comes down to some of the cross-referencing and linking. The detailed methods are often just simply difficult to find. And one specific case of this is the presentation on hydrodynamics from yesterday. Was really helpful in clarifying some of the issues of how these models are linked or coupled, hydrodynamic models, how those are, but it's just not obvious from the reading. And so it's placing a real burden on the reader. So within the net effects, the approach to evaluate relative importance of each attribute is mentioned, but it's not explicitly incorporated into the net effects analysis. And of course, this would confound the interpretation of overall net effects. I'm not sure if someone from our panel wants to elaborate on that more for ICF